group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. Now we'll pass the basket. This is a weekly STEP meeting. Your format is as follows. A speaker is asked to talk for 25 to 30 minutes on the STEP of that week, followed by discussion or questions until 7 p.m. You can find these weekly meetings on our YouTube page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and share. Well, this brings us to the hour. The meeting, March 21st, 2022, in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, on the Monday night, 6 p.m. Stay Alive Literature and Step Group of St. Paul's Lutheran Church. Tonight's speaker is Mike, and he will give his spirit, strength, and hope on step one. Let's all give Mike a warm welcome.
Mike, I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Mike.
Thanks to the group for having me. I appreciate it. I love step one. I'll qualify myself very quickly because I do want to get into step one. I love not having to share any war stories or anything crazy like that, and just get right into the program because that's what this fellowship lives on. It lives on what's written in this book so many years ago. It's a beautiful book, and I'll let you in on a great secret about the book. Step one is right here, page 30. If you read this, you really don't have to listen to anything I have to say tonight because anything I say is just an opinion of my experience with these given pages within step one of this greatly written book. I have a home group, Feet for a Speakers group, meets Monday nights at 8 o'clock. If anybody wants to race up there with me afterwards, you're more than welcome to. It's in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. And I have a sponsor, his name is Mickey. You may or may not know him. He's a loud, boisterous guy. Great recovery. And he found me when I was at my lowest and had the gift of desperation. I was running on self-promotion, self-fear, self-desperation, whatever you want to call it. And I happened to get plugged into a power greater than myself by taking these 12 steps. One thing I like to point out, because I do love the steps and like to speak about the steps, I don't believe there's any way to fully understand and comprehend how the steps work. It's a spiritual experience, it's not a technical experience. Although there are suggestions and instructions that are written, again, in this book that we can follow to take these certain steps. One thing about the steps are not the power. All right, get that right. The steps are not the power. They are the vehicle to get you to the power, which is your higher power. You take these steps, you have an entire psychic change, you get connected to a higher power, a power greater than anything you've ever imagined, any drug or alcohol, anything's ever happened in your life. And that power is infinite. And it keeps expanding as you go through these steps. In order to do these steps, you have to take step one. In order to get to step one, you have to understand some fundamental things that are written in the doctor's opinion. One is that we are abnormally different than the normal drinker. We have an allergy that affects us both mentally and bodily. It's a physical allergy combined with a mental obsession. All right, so that means you have two prongs of this allergy. It means not only when you induce a substance into your body, something physically, some kind of allergy, you get hives, whatever else, something changes inside of us. You also have a mental key that happens. I like to say once you induce both of those, all bets are off. You're powerless at that point. Alcohol's got you. You're now alcohol's slave or drug of your choice, whatever you choose to say. Step one says we were powerless over alcohol and our lives became unmanageable. True. But alcohol was not my problem. Alcohol was my solution to my problem. My problem was me. My problem was the way that I dealt with life. So when I remove alcohol from that statement, we were powerless over alcohol, I can still tell you today I struggle with step one on a daily basis because I take my self-will back. When I have a problem, more than likely it's a step one problem. Again, I think that I have some illusion of power over this world. I can tell people how or where or when and what they should do. And when they don't follow those directions, I get angry. This delusion of power that I get myself, it always roots back to a step one problem. And that's why I love this understanding. When I first came in here, I went through the steps and I was so proud. I'm on step 7, I'm trucking along. Yeah, this is awesome. Step 7, sir. And I had good direction. And they said, I don't care if you're on step 7. You better go look at step 1 again. You better make sure you're following 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on a daily basis. The steps are in order for a reason because we can't do a 10-step inventory if we're running on self-will and we haven't taken over step 1. So as we go through this kind of just an idea of how I look at the steps in general. I'm going to try to explain to you the best of my ability my understanding of step one. And the best way I can do that is through my experience of going through step one and my struggles with step one. When I first came in here, I said, Mike, I'm an alcoholic. I remember I was in rehab. I wasn't really sure. It was kind of like a good feeling. Yeah, everyone else is saying it. I can relate. Yeah, we're all alcoholics together, right? I had no idea what I was saying when I said I'm an alcoholic. I might have not known for 2 years while I was in this program. Until I went through this step with my sponsor, I was so bewildered and defogged. It was just kind of like, hey man, anything, let's do it. Until I started to walk through this step with someone else and take someone else through this step, did I even begin to understand what it meant in step one and what it means to say I am an alcoholic. If you read step one and you thoroughly understand, step one is not a happy place. All right, basically step one says, if you do not take any actions, you will die a painful alcoholic death. If you don't find a spiritual experience, you'll die a painful alcoholic death. That's what it says. That's what it means to be an alcoholic. If you don't change your circumstances somehow, some way, 12-step program, lock yourself up, whatever it has to be, alcohol is going to win, and it's undefeated. So what it means to be an alcoholic means that I have an issue, a problem, a chronic problem that keeps coming back, and I'm responsible for the treatment of that problem. What that treatment is, I found best in a 12-step fellowship. I can't prescribe or tell you what you all can do, but you're in a 12-step fellowship, so we're all happy you're here. Step one walks down, and I'm just going to read a little bit from the book so I don't butcher it, but it says right here on the first page, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. Fully concede. That gives up all notions, all ideas that I'm something different or that I'm going to evolve into something different. I need to accept and understand that I am an alcoholic, again, that I have an issue, and I need to take care of that. All right. So as step one goes along, I start talking about this, different experiments that we do. Only drinking on weekends, drinking here, trying to do controlled drinking. I was a functioning alcoholic for years. For years, I thought it was okay. I had a job, I had a car. No one really minded. I thought like I had the wool over everyone's eyes. They couldn't see what was going on. I'm so sneaky and manipulative. All right. For years. But we try all these different ways to manage this thing. All these self-prescribed ways to manage what is going on inside of us. As we go through step one, it begins to list out, basically through stories or morals in this book, about different ways that people try to sneak around this step one issue. One big thing it talks about is time. It talks about the Florida guy that lolls in the sun. He puts the alcohol down. He runs this great business. He makes all this money. He's dry for 30 years. Right? Don't we wish we could all do it? It all just goes away. I tend to believe in my crazy head that guy was just crazy, doing other things other than alcohol, because without some kind of solution in my life, I get wild, in other aspects. It doesn't have to be alcohol and drugs alone. But I tend to think that guy became a workaholic. He worked it off and, had a crazy existence. But he picks up a drink 30 years later. It says something within here, within 2 weeks or 2 months, he's in the hospital and he's dead. He thought he beat alcoholism with time. So if you think for some reason that you can sit here and just wilt away and not do this program or take what you want for this program and eventually you're going to be able to have a drink without, as the book says, with impunity, I don't know. All experience shows it hasn't happened. I've seen numerous people come in here and they start walking away from the sponsor, walking away from meetings. They got some time. They got it all figured out. They got the good job. They got it under control. And next thing you know, they're calling you and they're struggling. They're powerless, right? And they don't have their higher power that they were plugged into when they were in here. Another thing it talks about step one is money. Money. All the money in the world cannot solve alcoholism. Period. Bottom line. Roland Hazard goes to the best psychiatrist, Dr. Young. He can't figure it out. They're just throwing all kinds of money at it. It doesn't solve the problem. Doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't discriminate. Alcohol will win. Another thing it talks about is doctors, medical advice. To my knowledge, I know there's been ample amount of research and different things, but there's still no pill they can give us that's going to take away whatever you want to call it, this gene, whatever it is, allergy, the spiritual misconception, I don't know what it is, doesn't matter. But medical experience, right? Yeah, we can go to rehabs, we can get locked up, we can get cleaned up, but how many times do we come back out, we get that fresh air, and we think it's going to be different this time? That mental obsession, that delusion hits. I'm not here to talk down about medical. I was part of rehab. They saved my life as far as I'm concerned. I think if you require detox or medical treatment, you should definitely seek it. But what I'm here to tell you is there is no golden shot or no golden thing that you can do that's going to provide the solution to alcoholism. Another big one it hits on is people. How many of us have loved ones that have told us, hey, just put the drink down, it's going to be better. Hey, I can stay with you if you just stop drinking. Hey, why can't you just stop drinking? What's going on with you? I can remember endless amounts of people, just control your drinking, man. Just be normal. I think I am normal. I'm doing what's normal to me. I don't know what else to tell you. But no matter how bad those people want it for you, they can't give it to you. It breaks my heart. I got a small taste of what my mother felt as she watched me slowly die over a period of time when I came in here and I was sponsoring a guy and he did fantastic. We're working through the steps. He's having a spiritual experience. We're hitting meetings. We're laughing. We're carrying on. 2 years, this guy's like my sidekick. Wow, this is so cool. Come 2.5 years, he relapses. He's not calling me. He's not picking up. He doesn't want to talk about it. He's shamed. He's guilted. I can't do anything. I am powerless. This is a step one scenario. I am powerless. I'm powerless over his addiction. I'm powerless over mine. How am I going to save him? All I can do is continue to carry this message and show him that there is a different type of way. I don't know where that guy is today. And it hurts. But it was a valuable lesson in that because I understood the powerlessness that my mom and those loved ones saw around me. I can't imagine if it's blood. Fortunately, I haven't had a brother or anybody like that to suffer from this disease. But the powerlessness must feel, it was a chilling feeling. Chilling to the amount of times I said, my mom just doesn't understand this. She's not an alcoholic. It's crazy. Some other things it gets into, consequences. It's so funny. It kind of hints at in this, and this can be like when I read it with somebody and explain it to them, I tell them, hey, this is a tool, but it's not the tool. Has anyone ever heard the play the tape through? Right? Play the tape through? Okay. It's a good tool, sure. Play the tape through. Like we know the future, sure. Okay. See, the problem with me in playing the tape through is when I have that mental obsession and I play that tape through, I just don't give a damn what that tape says. I'll say, I'll deal with that tape when that tape happens. I'll say, hey, if that happens, that happens. Hey, I deserve that. Very self-deprecating and talk down on myself. So, again, it's a deterrent in a sense, but it's not the golden rule. All right? We can't tell the future. Consequences have never stopped us. They have cut out each thing. The best way I've heard it described, I'm trying to think who said it. Pretty sure it was Bob D. I'm pretty sure it was Bob D, but he was basically describing a friend that had cancer, and they couldn't find a cure for this guy's cancer. And one day he's all chipper, and he comes and says, Bob, they're going to do surgery. And Bob says, oh, they're going to remove the cancer. He said, no. They're going to remove other organs to make room for the growth of the cancer so it's not so painful. And that's what alcoholism does. Alcoholism cuts out all these other pieces of my life and just grows and grows until it fully consumes me. That's the same exact principle. And these consequences, they mean nothing. When I'm self-willed and self-deprecated and selfed up, I could care less about what I do to you or myself. So consequences are not my deterrent. Yeah, you can threaten to lock me up, threaten to throw me into rehab. It's happened. It hasn't stopped me. Right? So then it brings back to, another big one I missed is self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is huge for step one. A lot of people that come back into the rooms and they've had experiences with step one or have already read the book, I read the set-aside prayer with them every time, not just for them, but for me, to kind of put aside everything I think I know about this experience or everything I think I know about what's going to go on here and have a new and open experience in order to grow and learn for both of us. But self-knowledge, oh man, that is the biggest ego-feeding proposition. I gotta tell you, I've listened to a lot of speaker tapes. I've gained a lot of knowledge in this thing. Without application, it means jack shit. Doesn't mean anything. And without helping somebody else while I'm applying it, it means absolutely nothing. If you learn nothing else through this whole thing, in the big book, it's like 164 times, helping another alcoholic is our solution. That's how we get out of self. That's how we talk with other people. Or excuse me, that's how we get out of self, and we talk with other people and we ask them how they're doing. It references it all the time. I don't care what kind of time you have, how long you've been here. Go up to someone else and say, howdy, how are you doing? And for maybe those 3 minutes when they're telling you how they are, you won't talk about you. For me in the beginning, it was 10 seconds, and I run right back to thinking about me. But it was a small reprieve. It's these little wins that you need to get. But self-knowledge is this, my ego is it basically, it allows my alcoholism to take that knowledge and twist it and use it to its own benefit. It allows me to justify behaviors that I know are incorrect, but yet I can justify and manipulate and change, when I'm running on self-will, and say, I don't have to go to that meeting tonight. I don't have to help that guy. He's fine. I helped the last guy. As if there's some kind of scoreboard of how many helps I've had in a given week, that I need to rack up. But, self-knowledge is one of those things that's going to block us off from a spiritual experience, because we get into this, to quote my grand sponsor who recently passed away, Tree Man, this I know phase. And he would always tell me, Mike, you know what the mating call of a moron is? I know. And that's exactly what it is, because I'm closed off to learning anything because I think I know it all. So after telling you all that, all those things are not going to solve your riddle. That's a little scary. And you're doomed to alcoholic death unless you do find something to solve your riddle. And the chapter before this is called There is a Solution, so there must be something adding up to all this. And back in the doctor's opinion, it says without an entire psychic change. When I read that, it's like a trick question for my sponsees. I say, so what's your question right now? They say, I don't get it. I said, don't you want to know how you get one of those psychic changes? And I say, you keep going with the steps. You're in the right place, But an entire psychic change, in order to fix a problem, we need to identify a problem. Right? If step 1 doesn't tell you anything, it tells you that you cannot fix the problem. I'm sorry, you can't. I don't care if you can build Empire State Building. I don't care what special skills and tools you have. Alcohol is undefeated. My sponsor laid it out to me very, very clearly. I can't is step 1. He can, and let him. Those are 1, 2, and 3. Very layman, simple terms. But I can't. I need to surrender. I need to give up the struggle. I need to stop fighting upstream and constantly trying to control and manipulate and force these chess pieces into all different kind of ways. As we get on to the other steps, it's going to talk about the actor and all these other things that come into play here. But step 1 is the start of it all. One thing I forgot to mention that my sponsor would be mad if I didn't mention about the first step. Sorry, let me check the time. Anyone know what the most important word is in the first step? Any guesses? Powerless, right? That's what I said. No, that's wrong. It's we. It's we. Because you can't do this alone. I don't care who you are. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how spiritually grounded you think you are. If you're spiritually grounded, you still need to help other people. Look at all these people around us. And when it says we, it doesn't just mean the people that are around us today. It doesn't just mean the millions of people that are in sobriety or in recovery around the world. It means the people that have come before us, that have walked this same path, right? And hit these same issues and these same lumps and these same ideals and these same fights within groups and the same drama and the same ego. All the history that comes with AA. That's what it means by we. I can't stress it enough. If you're not having an experience with this book or with the 12 steps, please get with someone and have an experience. We're blessed today to be able to have sponsorship and people that have come before us and talk about this book. This This is the solution is in this book. Too many people are out here just going to meetings and fellowshipping, and I love it, and the fellowshipping is fantastic, but have a step one experience. Better yet, have a step one experience while giving it to someone else. I saw it from a totally different angle when I was trying to explain it to someone else. And tell them what you did with step one, how you understood step one. A lot of times I think this step one is kind of overlooked, or this cliche like, oh, I took step one even before I walked in here. Like, sure, okay, you've had an experience with step one before you walked in here. But I don't believe you understand and comprehend what you're saying when it comes down to step one. You're saying that you're doomed to an alcoholic death. That's what Mike, I'm an alcoholic means, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. Without this program, without this fellowship, without my connection to my higher power, I'm doomed. And it all comes back to step one for me. I volunteered for step one because step one holds a very special part in my heart. When I learned that I have a step one problem on a daily basis, that I, can't serve self and can't serve God. Can't do it, Mike. Can't have two masters. When I have two masters, I'm really just have a self-master, and that's a step one problem. Again, I have this delusion that somehow, some way I've gained some kind of power into this system. Step one, it really sets you up for the rest of the steps as you go along. And like I said, if it's your first time going through the steps, I did not understand to the degree that I'm explaining now what more about alcoholism meant the first time I read it. I read it the first time by myself. I read it with a sponsor. You don't need to harp on like breaking down and comprehending, understanding the steps. That's not how this works. The steps are meant to be actioned upon. The action for step one is getting in these rooms. The action for step one is sitting down with someone else and going through the work. The action for step one is surrendering, is giving up the power. Maybe just having this thought like, wow, maybe I don't run it all. That could be a step one action. Just maybe, I'm not that important. These are things that came into my head and just slowly grew and grew and grew and grew. And then they still come into my head sometimes, because sometimes I think I'm that important. And I walk around, I get my chest all pumped up and all these other things, and my character defects start roaring out of control, and then I try to do a 10-step, and my 10 steps all over the place. And why is that, Mike? Because my step one is out of place. We have to take these steps, these actions on a daily basis. That means all the steps. I'm not that much of a believer in the whole maintenance steps kind of thing. I think you can take all 12 steps on a daily basis if you know what you're doing. If you don't have step one in place, it's not a real use on going down the rest of the steps because you're just running on self-will. Thanks for everybody to share on Mike.
Okay, guys, we're going to open up the meeting. Please limit your sharing to 3 minutes. Please keep your shares related to this step. If you feel like drinking or you've had a drink today, please see me or speak to someone after the meeting. We ask that you please refrain from use of profanity. We are in a church and on a spiritual journey. I'd like to open up the meeting.